Unlock the secrets to Waukesha property ownership. Discover how you can access and understand property deeds with ease and confidence. Welcome to this explainer. If you've ever looked at a piece of land and thought, I wonder about its history, or who actually owns it, or what restrictions might be tied to it, well, you are in the exact right place.
Whether you're a prospective homebuyer wanting to know exactly what you're making an offer on, a real estate investor doing some serious due diligence, or maybe just a local history buff wanting to trace the roots of your own neighborhood, this explainer is basically your investigator's guide to mastering Waukesha County's public records. Navigating government databases? Yeah, it can definitely feel a bit overwhelming, especially for beginners. But don't worry, we're going to break the whole thing down step by step so you can do this completely on your own.
Okay, let's dive right in. Here's our roadmap for today. First, we'll look at the power of property deeds. Then, Waukesha's unique privacy rules. Third, a step-by-step deed search. Fourth, decoding your property deed. Fifth, some crucial pro tips and pitfalls. And finally, our final thoughts and disclaimer.
All right, Section 1. Let's talk about the power of property deeds.
So why do we care so much about this single piece of paper? Well, fun fact, the position of the Register of Deeds has literally been enshrined in the Wisconsin Constitution since 1848. Filing a document here puts the entire world on notice about who owns what. But here's a massive point of confusion for a lot of homebuyers: the difference between a deed and a title. People use these terms interchangeably all the time, right? But as the county's own FAQ points out, they are definitely different. A deed is the actual physical document that shows ownership and exactly how a person or entity holds that property. Deeds are recorded right there in the public office. A title, on the other hand, usually refers to a title policy. That's a set of documents prepared by a private title company that covers the chain of title and insurance. Title policies are totally private. They are not recorded in the county office. Think of it this way. You get the deed from the county, but you get the title policy from your closing paperwork.
Moving on to Section 2, Waukesha's unique privacy rules.
Now, before we actually begin the hunt, you absolutely have to know the local rules of engagement. If you go to the county website thinking you can just type in your neighbor's name to see what they own, you're going to hit a massive brick wall. See, back on November 12, 2002, the Waukesha County Board of Supervisors enacted a very specific privacy restriction for their land information system. To protect citizen privacy, they decided that the ability to search for properties directly by an owner's name would just not be provided. You simply cannot arbitrarily search an individual's complete real estate holdings through the public online portal. Now, owner names are public record, for sure, but online, they're only visible when they're already attached to a specific identifiable parcel of land. Which brings us to Section 3. Let's walk through our step-by-step deed search.
Because of that 2002 privacy rule, we can't just type in John Smith. We have to use a specific two-part workaround. Honestly, it's a lot like a treasure hunt, where the first clue unlocks the second box. Here's the macro process. Step 1. We hit the Waukesha County Tax Listing Database to get our geographic identifiers. And Step 2, we take those exact identifiers over to the Land Records portal to pull the actual deed. Okay, Step 1 is our critical first stop. You'll want to navigate to the Waukesha County Tax Listing website. This database essentially aggregates data from all the local municipalities. Here, you can search by the property address. Once you pull up the property details or the tax bill details, you're going to look at the top middle of the screen for the parcel identification number. People often call this the PIN or the tax key. You might also want to jot down the legal description of the property while you're there, just in case. But this PIN, this is your golden ticket.
Once you have your PIN, proceed to Step 2. You're going to navigate to the Land Records portal, specifically the Public Access or Online Document Search tool. Here, you can plug in that PIN to locate the actual recorded documents. It's super important to note that the database has documents fully indexed that were recorded on or after January 1st, 1994. So for anything from 1994 to the present day, searching by the PIN or modern legal description should pull up the deed, any mortgages, and other encumbrances or liens tied to that property.
But wait, what if you're researching a historic property from before 1994? Well, images going all the way back to the 1800s are actually in the system, but they aren't fully indexed by modern PINs. For older properties, especially those described by meets and bounds, which use the Public Land Survey System, you'll need to use the online tract index. Basically, you match the range, township, and section numbers from your legal description, narrow it down to the approximate year range of the transaction, and scan for the grantor and grantee names. That is going to point you to the corresponding volume and page numbers where the actual deed image is stored. Yes, it takes a little more detective work, so grab your magnifying glass, but uncovering that history, it's incredibly rewarding.
All right, Section 4, decoding your property deed.
Now, what's really interesting is what you actually see once you pull that document up on your screen, because knowing how to read it is just as important as knowing how to find it. First off, you'll see the grantor, which is the person selling or transferring the property, and the grantee, the person buying or receiving it. You'll also see the legal description. And note, this isn't just the street address, it's the exact technical boundaries of the land. Now look closely for the parcel identification number. As of January 1st, 2024, a brand new rule requires a PIN on all conveyance documents recorded in Waukesha County. Oh, and you'll probably notice a completely blank 3x3-inch space in the upper right-hand corner. Don't worry, that's not a printing error. It's strictly reserved for the official recording stamp from the Register of Deeds to validate the document. Depending on the document, you might also find encumbrances listed, or even historical, racially restrictive covenants if you're looking at very old deeds. That's actually something historians and fair housing researchers often investigate by following a property backward in time.
Section 5. Let's talk about some pro tips and major pitfalls. So you know the steps and you know what you're looking at, but there are a few massive pitfalls that trip up almost every single beginner. The biggest trap by far, data entry formatting. When you're searching the online databases, you must enter the information exactly as the computer wants it, or you're going to get zero results. When searching by tax key or PIN, you have to omit all spaces and punctuation. If the tax bill says BRC 1234.555, you must type it as a single block, BRC 1234.555. Also, in areas of Waukesha County that use grid coordinate addressing, you have to drop the spaces and the street names. So S99 W22910 Norton Avenue becomes just S99 W22910. I'm telling you, this one tip brilliantly illustrates how to save yourself hours of frustration.
Another pro tip relates to a major concern we hear all the time from prospective buyers and current owners. They ask, how do I know if someone is trying to fraudulently transfer my deed? And hey, deed fraud is a real, albeit rare, concern nationwide. Well, Waukesha County offers a completely free tool called the Recording Notification Service, or RNS. You can actually sign up using your PIN, and the system will actively monitor the land records database for you. If a new document is recorded against your PIN, you get an early warning alert right away. Now, it's very important to clarify, RNS cannot magically stop a fraudulent document from being recorded in the first place, nor can the Register of Deeds just hit delete on a document without a court order. However, it gives you that absolute crucial immediate heads up so you can contact law enforcement or an attorney right away if something looks wrong.
And that brings us to Section 6, final thoughts and our disclaimer.
As we wrap up this investigator's guide, let's look at the big picture. The crucial point here is empowerment. You now have the exact blueprint to confidently navigate Waukesha County's public land records. You know how to bypass the name search privacy restriction by leveraging the tax listing database to find that golden ticket PIN. You know how to read the anatomy of the deed itself, and you know exactly how to avoid those frustrating data entry formatting traps. Understanding this process is just an incredible tool for making informed real estate investments, understanding your own property rights, or honestly just exploring your local history.
Of course, we do need to end on a professional, evergreen disclaimer. As the county makes explicitly clear, the Register of Deeds office records documents, but they absolutely cannot provide legal advice, draft documents for you, or interpret property titles. Likewise, this explainer is strictly for educational and general guidance purposes. If you discover a complex issue on a deed, or if you need assistance drafting or interpreting legal documents, you should always consult with a qualified real estate attorney, a title company, or utilize the State Bar of Wisconsin's lawyer referral service.
The public records are sitting right there on the Waukesha County servers, just waiting for you to piece the puzzle together. So grab your address, go find that PIN, and start digging. What hidden history will you uncover in your property's deed today?